we're back in the Nevada desert. To be specific, this road here, if you follow it that way for a long, long time, will lead back to Area 51. Almost exactly a year ago, I headed down this road to Area 51. Filmed a video out there, went all the way up to the front gate, got chased off the property by a very scary government truck, and now I'm back at this turnoff over here, thinking once again about aliens and outer space. Of course, I did find some unusual things out at Area 51, but that is not where I'm headed today. For the past 2 days, it has been raining and raining and raining in Las Vegas. So for the most part, I was with my friends, just going from casino to casino, watching them all gamble and, you know, just sort of enjoying myself because I really couldn't do that much. And now that the rain has passed, I've decided to leave Las Vegas, the oasis in the desert, and head out into the desert itself. My adventure today, hopefully, is outer space themed, but the passing of the road to Area 51 is actually just a happy accident. Good times out on that highway. If you've never seen my Area 51 video, I highly recommend it. So now we gotta hit the road. But before we do, check this out over here. Look at this. Somebody got a little sleepy out here. If any aliens wanted to land out here, we wanted to make sure, the people of Earth, that they had a place to sleep. Ooh, that's a quality mattress right there. Very bouncy. La 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 la. That's actually really fun. Okay, we could go now. No, wait. Jimmy Crack Corn and I don't care. Jimmy Crack Corn and I don't care. Jimmy Crack Corn and I don't care. Woo! Okay, now we can go. Man, there sure are a lot of clouds out here, which is very unusual for this part of the world. Might not be the optimum weather to do this in, but this is a place that I must go. Now, the whole reason I cruised out to Area 51 last year is I grew up in the 80s and the 90s when aliens were all the rage. Dude, it feels like Discovery Channel, History Channel, every channel just had show after show about aliens and Area 51, Roswell conspiracies. I feel like a lot of that has to do with the generation coming of age after Star Wars, man. Now, we spent some time together. You guys know Star Wars is my favorite thing. You've seen my Star Wars action figure collection. I love Star Wars. But for kids my age, there was also something else going on in the 80s into the 90s other than Star Wars. Something else set in space. The final frontier that we love. I'm talking, of course, about Star Trek. The Next Generation. Dude, that show was huge when I was a kid. And of course, loving Star Trek The Next Generation means that my dad took me aside, popped in some VHS tapes, and exposed me to the world of the original cast of Star Trek's movies. The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home. These are some of my favorite films of all time. And as the original Star Trek crew's missions were winding down, their movie series was wrapping up, and they were preparing for Star Trek The Next Generation movies to begin. For one brief, amazing moment in time, their two paths crossed. There was a brief but intense silence as millions of nerd brains across the galaxy exploded when they found out that Captain Picard was going to meet Captain James Tiberius Kirk. That's right. There was in fact to be a Star Trek crossover movie, Star Trek Generations. In the beginning of the movie, we see the old school cast of Star Trek responding to this weird ribbon of energy floating through space, destroying things and everything, and Captain Kirk gets sucked into it. He's dead. He's gone. Fast forward into the Next Generation era, and the future Enterprise is encountering problems with the same strange ribbon of energy called the Nexus. It turns out this Nexus ribbon, and by the way, there's no spoiler alerts here because this movie was released in the early 90s. You've had time to see it. It turns out that being inside of this weird ribbon of energy is something like being inside of heaven. It kind of exists outside of normal space and time, and there's this crazy mad scientist, Dr. Soren, who will stop at nothing to get back inside of it. So he's threatening to blow up a planet's sun to bring the Nexus to him. So of course the Enterprise has to stop him because a nearby planet would also be destroyed and millions of lives would be lost. So Picard has got to go down to the planet, down to Dr. Soren, and stop him from blowing up the sun. So the planet that Dr. Soren is on, the planet that Picard has to go down to and try to convince this madman to stop destroying millions of lives, is called Veridian III. And Veridian III was filmed right here in Nevada at the Valley of Fire State Park. Prepare yourselves, friends, because we're about to boldly go where Captain Picard has gone before. Dun, da, 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 da. Looks pretty awesome down there. I'm stoked. Dang, you can see how quickly this changes from regular brown Nevada desert hillsides to this intensely red rock. Dude, that's some pretty wild stuff. It already kind of looks like we're on another planet. I mean, look at this. That's the visitor center down there, and you do not have to go very far before it just feels like you are on Mars. As a matter of fact, that reminds me, this is Mars. Did you guys ever see the movie Total Recall? I mean, the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Supposedly, Valley of Fire State Park is where they filmed all the Martian scenes. Well, all the outdoor shots anyways, all those shots of those crazy Martian mountains and cliffs and everything. That was Valley of Fire. You know when Quaid starts the reactor and then they shoot out of the cliff and land below and then his eyeballs start popping out of his head? Well, just because the special effects, I'm sure that was actually probably filmed on a soundstage. But if it wasn't, it was probably filmed somewhere just like this. I'm not Hauser, I'm Quaid. I like to go to Mars. I'm dreaming always about Mars. I have to get to Mars. I start the reactor. I shoot out of the cliff. Oh, why did you do this, Korato? Sweet, sweet oxygen. That is pretty freaking sweet. We visited Mars and a filming location for Total Recall, or at least, you know, sort of in theory. We barely left the car yet. There's a lot of epic weird stuff out here. Like, look at lots of rocks with holes in them, Native American petroglyphs. Really, really cool stuff. But I'm here to visit Veridian III. So, down the road we must go. Look at all those quail running away there. Look at all those little snipes. Snipe hunt time. Wait a minute. We're on Mars. Those aren't quail. They're aliens. I love coming out to look for stuff like this, because it gives me an excuse to come and see some really beautiful places that I might not otherwise have ever even known were there. Look at all this. Okay, the colors are starting to change from red back to brown. And oh my goodness, I can see it. Look out there. Do you see that dome rising up there? This is it. This is Veridian III from Star Trek Generations. We made it. Right up there is where Dr. Soren had his missile pointed up at the sky, waiting for the Nexus. Dr. Soren, of course, was played by Malcolm McDowell. He's a pretty menacing dude. As a matter of fact, he was the star of Clockwork Orange, so, you know, he knows a thing or two about intense roles, and they wanted a bad guy that they said would be like Khan, you know, from the Wrath of Khan. I don't know if he was Khan level bad, but he would stop at nothing to re-enter the Nexus to go back to heaven. Sort of an interesting plot line that the guy will kill millions of other people so that he can go to heaven. He'll stop at nothing to go to heaven. Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, this is where Picard has to beam down to because this guy over here has got all kinds of catwalks and stuff up there, and he's got his rocket on top of this guy pointed up at the sun of this planet system, ready to blow it up, change gravity, and bring the Nexus to him. Of course, Captain Picard totally fails, and the bad guy does launch the rocket, does bring the Nexus over here, and sucks both of them up into it. There's a lot of people out in the park today, and they're all taking a look at Silica Dome over there, which is that big peak from Veridian III. But I'm hoping I can get away from the crowds, and I'm also hoping that this trail will lead me closer to the peak where they actually film Star Trek. Well, we'll see what we can do. I don't have any water out here. My cell phone has no service, and I have no medical supplies, so what could go wrong, right? Little hike. So again, major spoiler alert, Picard has failed. He's in the Nexus, it's heaven, he can get anything he wants, and he finds out from inside the Nexus that he can actually leave it and go back to any time, any place in the real galaxy. And he also learns that there's somebody else in the Nexus with him who can help him come back here and defeat the bad guy. And that someone else was none other than the greatest starship captain in history, James Tiberius Kirk! Of course, he's an older Kirk in the movie, but I can only find the old school, original series Captain Kirk action figure. It doesn't matter. It's James Tiberius Kirk! James T. Kirk has been chilling in the Nexus. He's just been hanging out in heaven, having a good time, and somehow Captain Picard convinces him, dude, you gotta leave paradise with me and go back to this godforsaken rock and fight a bad guy. Why? To make a difference. And Kirk is stoked. He's like, I can get out of here? I can make a difference again? I'm in! And so at last, finally, the two greatest captains of the Starship Enterprise combine forces to fight off a foe. Speaking of aliens, look at some of these plants out here. They are very, very strange looking. Okay, back to the story. The two captains are now on Veridian III. They only have a short amount of time to get up there and stop Sodon from launching his rocket into the sun. And up here is where all the action took place. This hike is a little intense. I'm glad it's winter. I am sweating now, and it is not hot outside. Can't imagine the summer. Okay. Look at this crazy landscape out here. My car is already all the way over there. Oh boy. We can do this though. Whew. Enterprise, could you just beam me to the top? No? Dang. I knew I'd be climbing up a mountain. I just didn't know it would be so steep. Woo! Hey! Oh, this is actually quite a climb. Oh, I just keep thinking, if Bill Shatner and Patrick Stewart could do it, so can I. Look at this. Look at this view over here, over the shoulder of the dome. This gives me the willies. It's pretty high up. Woo. It's one of those places that you go to and you think, this'll be easy. And you get there and you go, oh, this'll be dangerous. Fun thing. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We made it. We made it. We made it to Star Trek. We are in Star Trek. Oh my goodness gracious me. Dude, there's the parking lot way down there. You can see the whole world from up here. This is the way they were looking when the Nexus came. This is where they were looking down at Veridian III. This is crazy. Kirk and freaking Picard up here fighting the guy from Clockwork Orange. Dude, you gotta be careful up here. You would not want to take a tumble. Whew, that's a Nexus you wouldn't be coming back from. Falling down there would give me a fright. Now in the movie, Dr. Soren is chilling up on top of this rock with this giant rocket he's about to launch up into the sun. I believe the rocket launcher was located on this part of the top of the dome here. There's sort of two parts. There's a part over on this crack, and there's a part over here looking out over the edge of the entire world. Now I can tell that this is where the rocket was because it's the easiest to see from the spot they filmed it down there pointing up at the sky. And also, if you look very carefully up here, you'll see the remains of some grinded off metal bolts and some patches up here where there were poles and bolts screwed into the rock itself to hold up the rocket launcher platform. That is pretty crazy. I heard a rumor that you could still see some pieces, but I didn't think it would be this noticeable. Side note, by the way, I am terrified of heights, and this is, I think, maybe one of the most, if not the most, terrifying place I've ever come up by myself in the crazy wind on top of this cliff over here to film this. Okay, now that I've got that little information out of the way, we may continue. It's funny being up here because it looks a lot smaller in real life. Wide angle lenses can do that to you, but between that rock over here and this one that I'm standing on where the rocket launcher was, there was a bridge and it was going from about here to there so they could shoot it to make it look like it was way more over the chasm. And this is where Kirk and Captain Picard surround Dr. Soren and confront him. This is where the big battle starts to take place. Now, somewhere down beneath us over the edge of the cliff, there was a lower and much bigger bridge over another chasm, but I'll get to that in a second. I don't really want to peer over there. This is the spot right here, the bridge where they confront Dr. Soren. And that right there is the background. When the Nexus approaches, they're looking this way. Dude, this is a crazy filming location. This is Federation history right here. Picard and Kirk duking it out with a bad guy right here. Now Picard is doing his best to disable the rocket that Soren is trying to shoot into the sun. Meanwhile, Kirk has to go after Dr. Soren himself. It's very disorienting for me to be up here, so I don't remember where exactly every little piece of the set lay in relation to the top of this dome. But basically, Picard's right up here trying to disable the rocket, and Kirk is going down on all the catwalks down below, shooting phasers and fighting with Dr. Soren. I'm just gonna climb down and see if I can find any more remnants. All right, here's what we're looking for. Down off the top, around the side where it's a little more steep, you could see even more remains of where they filmed the movie. Up here they had a crazy metal stairs, catwalks, and you can see where the patches have come off of these bolts here, but there are more patches in the rocks where the staircases were and the different bridges. And this is the area where Captain Kirk is fighting Dr. Soren. Whew, see, that's where we just were, way up on top of that dome there. And this, all down here is where the catwalks were. And Captain Kirk is basically down here fighting Soren just to provide a distraction, like I said, so Picard can disable the rocket. And down here I'm seeing all kinds of evidence of patching on the rocks. So I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is where the big bridge was stretched out from over here in this area where they had some more catwalks, kind of over this gap here, so that the background looked like it was over this chasm. Now at this point, if you're an old school Star Trek fan and you've somehow never seen this movie, I suggest you stop this video, because there's a massive spoiler coming right now. While he's fighting Dr. Soren, James T. Kirk is on the bridge right here hanging out over the precipice when the bridge collapses and tumbles down there. He's trapped down there under the wreckage. Dr. Soren escapes, goes to the top of the cliff where Picard runs out of the way. He checks his rocket. Uh-oh, it's locked. Kaboom! Rocket explodes on top of the dome. The bad guy is blown up with it, and Picard has saved the world. But uh-oh, where's Kirk? Captain James T. Kirk has taken a tumble. Ooh, see, look, more little bolts right there. Can't see any other way down where he took a tumble, so we're gonna have to climb down. It's honestly a little bit unsafe, not because of the steepness or anything, just because how loose all the rock is, but it's fine. If there's any kids watching, I highly, highly recommend that you do not do anything like this on your own, like I'm doing it. Always go with a buddy, wear proper hiking gear, etc., 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 etc. Okay, starting to see what I'm looking for down here. At the end, we see Captain Picard, and he's coming down all this stuff into this crevice. Look here, some more bolts down in this area of the canyon. Far down below, the site of the rocket's explosion, we see the tangled and mangled wreckage of the bridge. As you can see, a patch there for one of the bolts. There's another bolt just there sticking out from underneath this rock. And in case you're wondering why they would bolt everything to the ground instead of just set it here, it's because everything here is very, very loose. Now I can see the landscape changing in front of my own eyes here as all this stuff slides down, so it's changed a little in 23 years, so forgive me for not finding the exact spot. But right about here was the wreckage of the bridge where poor Captain Kirk lay in the rubble, bleeding from his mouth, and Captain Picard finds him trapped under the wreckage of the bridge, looking into his eyes. He's laying there, Veridian III in the background, and he says to Captain Picard, "Did we do it? Did we make a difference? You know, did we save the Enterprise? Did we save the planet?" Captain Picard's like, "Heck yeah, we did. That guy got blown up. Everything's cool now, buddy." "Oh, wait, it's not. Kirk, you're all hurt. You're all messed up." And Kirk looks up at Picard and says, "It was fun." And then, everyone, spoiler alert, Captain James Tiberius Kirk, captain of the USS Enterprise, the man who went boldly where no one had gone before it was cool, passed away in this canyon. May he long be remembered. I can't say may he live long and prosper because he died. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is where Captain Kirk passed away. This is where Captain Kirk died after all those adventures all across the stars on strange new worlds. This is where Captain Kirk dies? I never understood this about this movie. He dies just to provide a distraction so Captain Picard can beat the kid from Clockwork Orange? What the heck? Now, supposedly in the original script, he gets shot in the back and just falls down over here and dies. And they went, you know, sort of an inglorious death for Captain James T. Kirk. Maybe we'll just have him fall off a bridge. Fall off a bridge? What the heck? I, for one, think that Captain Kirk deserved a little bit better of a death, right? Don't you agree with me? Bill Shatner deserved a better outro to the Star Trek universe than that. But that's the nerd in me talking. We have to accept the fact that that's what happened, so Captain Kirk, I'm sorry. You dead. Whether you loved it or hated it. I was young, so I loved it. I didn't know better. Now I'm just not so sure about it. Star Trek Generations was one heck of a crazy movie. And it was filmed right here in the Valley of Fire, underneath Silica Dome. And just like Captain Picard before us, there's one more thing that we must do with Kirk before we leave this place. And of course, we've got to climb all the way back up there to do it. One more trip, one more trip, one more trip up the terrifying cliff. You know, I kind of wish the movie production had left all the stairs and stuff they built here. It really would have made this a lot easier for the end of the movie, for that final scene, or at least the final memorable scene. They come back on top of Silica Dome here, and we see Captain Jean-Luc Picard standing right up here, looking down right here into this very crack at the fresh rock grave of Captain Kirk. Right in this little crack over here, there was a tree. I don't know if it was stuck there by the movie or there actually used to be a tree growing in this very shallow soil. But right here in this crack, right here, was the grave. Folks, we are standing at the grave of James Tiberius Kirk. Captain Kirk's grave. Someday they'll bury William Shatner here. William Shatner's future grave. Of course, Kirk dies in like the 23rd or 24th century, 25th century. I can't remember when Star Trek The Next Generation takes place. So he dies in the future. He's not dead yet. Which means there is no grave here right now. But darn it, I came to visit Captain Kirk's grave. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. We don't want to bury you, but I'm afraid that we must. Goodbye, Captain Kirk. And then, as the movie comes to a close, Captain Picard, standing over the grave of Captain Kirk, takes off his Starfleet badge, lays it lovingly onto the grave, stands up, and then has that sweet, sweet helicopter shot as he gazes at it and the future. The torch has been passed to the next generation. Ba, 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 da, 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 da. Oh, Kirk, you are so dead. You're dead, oh, Kirk. You're dead. Rest in peace, Kirk. Oh, the horror. Why? Why did it have to be Kirk? You couldn't have put him back in the Nexus? You couldn't have sent him back to his own time with a slingshot like the Search for Spock? You couldn't have kept him in the franchise? Why? Why? This is all your fault, Malcolm McDowell! You should have been the one to die. Oh wait, Dr. Soren did die, but you should have been the only one to die. Oh, you're going down, hot dog nose. Get out of here, Soren! Whoa. He's gone. I just killed Malcolm McDowell. Whoa. And that's basically Star Trek Generations. So there you have it. The movie. It was super worth coming up here. Highly recommended. Unless you're afraid of heights like me, but after a while up here, you sort of get used to it. Whew. Thanks for coming with me, guys. Links down below in the description for how you can help keep the show on the road. We're gonna have a lot more crazy adventures this year. Spring is always the weird time. We're gonna get really kicking spring and summer of 2017, but can you believe this? We did it. we visited the grave of Captain Kirk. We've done our duty. And like Kirk here, we can go to Veridian III and sleep well. Live long and prosper, everyone. See you later. What a fun one. Oh boy. Went up, never thought about getting back down. Whew. You know what's crazy? Not only should Captain Kirk not have gone out like that, but his last words as he was dying were, "Oh my." That's George Takei's line. Was he just trying to screw with George Takei one last time? Or did they give him that line? Captain Kirk's last words were, "Oh my, oh my, oh my." Amateurs. Oh well. Maybe I can get into the Nexus and then go back in time to 1994 and stop this from happening. Oh, quick. I've got to build a rocket and launch it into the sun. I'm Veridian III. What could go wrong?